And we are live on the Moonbooks Facebook page. We will give it a few seconds for people to find us and realise that we're live, she says, hopefully.
Well, we're expecting thunderstorms here, but right now the sun is shining, so I think the gods are smiling.
We've had sun all day here too, so that's cool. So welcome to anyone that's joining us. If you are here watching, please do pop a hello in the comments so that myself and Ellen can say hello to you. We're looking forward to our chat today. That's my husband saying hello. He doesn't. Thank you. I can see lots of people jumping on. Thank you so much for joining us. Do type in the comments and say hello so that we know that Ellen and I aren't talking to ourselves. Although we could just carry on and chat to ourselves.
Why not? We're only, what, 5,000 miles apart?
Yeah, well, the magic of technology, isn't it? That's a Moonbook, so I'm guessing that's Trevor. Good evening, Trevor.
So I can, just so you know, I'm not being rude, but I can't see the names. I can't see anybody.
I'll feed you. That'll be fine.
Well, I'll say hi, Trevor.
I can see quite a few people jumped on now. So hello to everybody and welcome to the Moonbooks live session this evening. Bit of a chat with myself and Ellen Evert Hopman, both Moonbooks authors and other things as well. We'll get into that. Going to have a chat this evening. If you've got any questions, please do pop them in the comments and I will address them to Ellen and we'll hopefully have some interesting answers and an interesting chat. Again, if you've got any comments, pop them in the comments as well. Say hello so that we can wave at you and know that you're there. Ellen, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Well, I usually say I'm a druid, an herbalist, and an author. I've written a number of books. I live in Massachusetts, which is in New England in the United States. Right now I'm working as a full-time author and writer. That's what I do. For many years, I was an herbalist. I've also done political fundraising and I worked as a therapist. I have a degree in counseling. I've done a lot of things, but mostly I'm the archdruid of a group called Tribe of the Oak, which you can reach at tribeoftheoak.com. And we are a Celtic Reconstructionist Druid order, meaning that we're very focused on the ancient Irish materials. We have training, which is online. So we actually have members now in Russia, Mexico, Canada, all across the United States, Ireland, and I'm probably forgetting somebody.
Quite well spread, though.
Yeah, but anybody can study with us. It's a pretty rigorous program. It involves a lot of reading and study, but that's because we know that the druids were the intellectuals of the tribes and we are intellectuals, so that's who we are.
I think that's part of a course though, isn't it? If you want to learn things, it needs to be in depth, doesn't it? Otherwise you're missing out on things.
Right. I mean, why bother studying, you know? But we have a collection of writings, old Irish writings that go back to the 6th and 7th century.
Wow.
And, yeah, and they're beautiful, you know, wisdom stories and poetry, and that's part of what people study. And then we have other history books. We like people to really learn the history. And we look at all Celtic traditions, you know, Britain, Ireland, and then everything from northern Spain to Gaul to Switzerland to Austria, all the way to the Black Sea down into Turkey. I mean, the whole Celtic area for 1,000 years.
Yeah. But that's a big part of Druid, isn't it? I know I put my hands up to it that I don't know an awful lot about Druidry specifically, but that's the bardic side, isn't it? It's the stories and the myths. And about learning the history.
Yeah, well, it's not all myths. I mean, a lot of what we study is actual history.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of history, and there's archaeology. You know, there's a lot of evidence. People don't realize how much evidence there is, you know. And we really look at it, and it takes years. People study with us for years.
But that's the important part of it, isn't it? It's a journey rather than just a quick 5 minutes, isn't it? It has to be a journey, I think.
If you're going to call yourself a druid, back in the day, the druid was an expert, you know, so you better be an expert if you're going to call yourself a druid. Exactly. We look at it. Other druid groups are not like that, which is why I wrote this book.
And that was a nice lead in. I like that. Well, as you've brought that one up, would you like to tell us a bit about the Legacy of Druids? How did the book come about, and what actually is in the book?
Well, it's I'm very pleased to say that this book has only ever gotten 5-star reviews, which is pretty amazing.
That's fantastic.
100% 5-star reviews, and it's been out for a few years now. But what happened was, I was, you know, I'm a druid, and I started working on it in 1996, believe it or not. And I still was considering myself a student I mean, I'm still a student. You spend the rest of your life studying.
Oh, but, absolutely.
Right, but I was not an archdruid at that point. So I really wanted to learn what a druid was. And I was studying the ancient material, reading the books, you know, Pagan, Celtic Britain, Celtic Heritage, you know, all the deep scholarly stuff. But then I thought, well, you know, there's a lot of druids in the world, and I wonder what they think a druid is, you know. And my father had passed away, and I had a very small inheritance. So I decided to take the money, and I should have done something like buy a house, you know, put a down payment or something, but I didn't. I did what I usually do, which is pursue my spiritual path, you know, and I
follow your heart.
Yes, and I went to England. And I just started talking to people, and I brought, this was before I was online, you know, so I had an actual tape recorder, you know, and a microphone, and I went everywhere, and I talked to the most amazing people. And one of the things that I mean, it's sad, but I'm very glad, some of the people that I did interview have since passed on to the other world, and that's going to be happening more and more. But I met just some incredible people. I was looking through the book this morning just to refresh myself. And for example, I spoke with Lady Olivia Robertson at Cornwall Castle. I met her originally in Ireland, but then on this trip, she was in England for some reason. And we were sitting on the ground, I think in Hyde Park. But I interviewed her, and she was just the most amazing person. She's the founder of the Fellowship of Isis, the Druid clan of Dana. She knew Yeats. She was friends with Yeats.
Fantastic.
And the poet A.E., who is a wonderful, you know, mystical poet.
Yeah.
And her perspective is, or was, is, she's still around, she's in the other world, but her perspective was that the other world is real. That's the real world. And the world that we're in now, the world of our senses, is a mirage.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting perspective.
That's how she saw it. And so for her, the whole thing was about developing clairvoyance and intuition so that you could get better in contact with the other world, because the other world was the real world and this world was just an illusion. That's really how she saw things.
Well, we don't actually know, let's face it, do we? She could be absolutely on the mark.
Oh, I'm sure she's listening right now. Hello, Olivia. But she was friends with Jacqueline Onassis. I mean, she was just an amazing person.
Yeah.
Another one who's passed over, Tim Sebastian. Did you know Tim Sebastian?
No, I don't know that name.
Secular Order of Druids.
Oh, okay.
Sod.
Yes. Yeah.
He had I mean, one of the things that this book shows you is how many different varieties of druids there are. Tim was, his whole focus was on artistic ritual. He actually did druid ceremonies at raves.
Why not?
When I asked him, I said, do you have any training program for sod? And he said that people started out by being jesters.
Okay.
And then they went on from there.
Right.
So that was Tim. He was also an environmentalist, but he was a hippie from the 1960s, and his whole thing was big, artistic raves and festivals, and that was what a druid was for him. And then Isaac Bonowitz was a very important influence in my life.
In witchcraft and paganism in general, really, wasn't he?
Well, he's the founder of ADF, or one of the founders of ADF. Yeah. And he brought the emphasis on scholarship, Indo-European studies, studying the things like the Vedas, Carmina Gadelica, which is one of the basic books for Tribe of the Oak. But he really emphasized, he said, why not excellence? That was his thing. And he had an incredible history. I mean, his history actually looks something like mine. He started out in voodoo.
Right.
Then he went to Buddhism. Then he went to the Church of Satan.
Like you do.
And yes, as one does. And he got thrown out of all of them, including the Church of Satan. And then he joined the Reformed Druids of North America, RDNA. And then he went on to found ADF with some other people because they wanted a pagan druid order.
Right.
So I mean, so his whole thing is scholarship, Yeah. But I mean, all these groups, there's so many different approaches, and that's what's so interesting about the interviews in the book, because you get to see the breadth, of what Druidism really is.
Yeah. I think it's lovely that everyone has a different story, but it all comes together. Everyone's in the same group, if you like, but everyone's come at it from a different way with a different story. I think it's fantastic. We just give Judy a wave. Julie is from Oklahoma. She's popped on to say hello. So hi to Judy.
Hello, Judy.
If anyone has any questions for Ellen, please do pop them in the comments and we will do our best to answer them. We're talking about one of Ellen's books, because you have a lot, don't you? One of Ellen's books at the moment is Legacy of the Druids. If you want to give the cover a flash again.
Crass commercialism.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I was really lucky because it has both a preface and a foreword. The preface is written by John Matthews.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, John has a wonderful book called The Druid Source Book, which I recommend, because what he did was he took all of the ancient references, Caesar, Tacitus, all the ancient writings, and put them all together in one book.
Right.
So that makes it very convenient. And I was writing down some of what he said this morning. His impression was, and he was surprised, that many of the people in A Legacy of Druids were, they all grew up Catholic, which,
right.
Yeah, so you see a lot of Catholics, and that doesn't surprise me, really. I think it's because the love of ritual, the robes, the candles, the incense, all that. So Catholics make very good pagans, I always say.
Definitely.
And then Philip Carr-Gomm wrote the foreword, which is really nice.
Fantastic.
And he talks about all the different flavors of Druid, and I think he kind of feels like there's this nice big unified, there's a unified soup kind of all these different groups getting along. I think he's a little more optimistic about that than I am.
Yes.
Personally, I think that the Romantic Revival Druids and the Masonic Druids are very different from the Celtic Reconstructionist Druids.
Yeah.
And then the secular Druids, like Tim Sebastian's group, I think we're all really different. And I don't think we really have a desire to meld. We don't want to be the Unitarian Druids,
No.
Not happening. But Philip is very.
I think that's the same across a lot of pagan groups, isn't it?
Yeah, but vive la différence,
Exactly. A fantastic journey for you, though, with all those people that you met and bringing them all together in one book. It is a fascinating read.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't looked at it probably in 5 years or however long it's been out, and I was looking at it this morning, and I said, "Wow, this is really interesting." Because it's not coming from me; it's their words.
Yes.
And I have 3 books of interviews now. Would you like to see them?
You carry on. It's your evening, Ellen. You do carry on.
I mean, I have.
I'll give Sue a quick wipe. Sue says hello. Hi, Sue. If anyone has any questions, please pop them in the comments.
Hello, Sue. The first book of interviews is called Being a Pagan. And it was kind of the same story. I wanted to know, when I finally realized I was a pagan, I said, gee, what's a pagan? So then,
which is a question that a lot of people ask.
Right. So it's the same idea. I went to festivals with the same, tape recorder and mic, and I started interviewing people. And this is another book of interviews, and it goes into many different kinds of paganism, and there's many different kinds of pagans. And then there's another one, The Real Witches of New England. Now, I'm not a witch. I've never been a witch.
Right.
But what happened with this one was I found out that there was a local witch buried 17 minutes from my house by car. Okay. And I had no idea. I had lived here for 30 years and no one ever told me there was a witch in the area, and so I started looking into her, and then I realized, then I just started looking into it more and more. And so in this book, I go into New England witches of the past, and then I interviewed witches of the present.
Yeah.
So, and again, they're all different.
Yeah.
Every tradition is different.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we have a question from Judy. Now, there's a question. If we can sum this up in less than an hour, the question is, what is a pagan?
Oh my God.
Now, there's a question.
What is a pagan? Okay. Well, the classic definition of pagan is non-Judeo-Christian Islamic. Okay. So anybody who is not Judeo-Christian or Islamic is technically a pagan.
That's quite a wide
it covers a lot of territory. But the origin of the word pagan means country dweller. That's a Roman word. Right. And the reason they started using it as a religious term is because when the Christian missionaries started missionizing around Rome, the city people were converted first. They became Christian first. And the people living out in the country, the heathens, the people in the hinterland, were the last ones to be converted. So they were Hicks, they were pagans, they were country dwellers, they were, old-fashioned. And so the term pagan just means a not converted country person. And it implies that you're ignorant somehow.
Yeah. Not the nicest word in the original meaning, is it?
Yeah, But now it's an umbrella term. Now it defines a kind of religion which is non-Judeo-Christian Islamic.
It's I often think that it's linked. If you had to find one common denominator, it would probably be nature, would it not? Do you think that we connect with nature, all of the pagans?
I think so. Yeah, and also recognizing the divine feminine.
Right. Yeah.
That God isn't just a guy with a beard up in the sky somewhere casting judgment on everybody. Some pagans honored the divine male and the divine female. Some pagans just the divine female.
Yeah.
Some pagans are polytheist. Some pagans are duotheist. Polytheist meaning they honor all the gods and goddesses. Duotheist, they say all the goddesses are one goddess and all the gods are one god. That's duotheism. A lot of witches are duotheist.
Yes.
Yeah. But not druids. Druids are polytheist, unless, and this is how it gets complicated, if you are in Obad, for example, you could be a Christian druid.
Yes, I have met some Christo-pagans, yes.
Right, so then you're a monotheist. I don't know how they do it in their head, because they're following a monotheist religion, but then they say, don't they have like I forget the prayer, something, oh goddess?
Well, I think they work, the ones I've met work with Jesus or Mary as deities and work that somehow into, I don't,
so they're polytheists. What they're saying, they're polytheists.
Yeah. Whatever works for you is fine. There
are many, many kinds of druids, as you will find out when you read this book.
So thanks for the question, Judy. It is an enormous question with hours and hours of answers to it.
One could write a whole book about that.
Definitely. So we're here with Ellen this evening. If anyone has any comments or questions, please do pop them in the comments on Facebook there, and we'll do our best to answer them or laugh about them. I've got some questions here. So, Judy says she appreciates that. Thank you. It makes more sense. Good. I'm glad it makes sense. Some more questions here for you. What or who inspires you the most and why?
What or who? Well, the what, of course, would be nature. Nature. I mean, I live in an oak forest. I'm really lucky that way. Every window that I look out of, all I see is trees.
Oh,
and every once in a while, I'll see a deer, or I'll see a flock of turkeys right outside my window. I'll be sitting here at my computer, and there's a whole flock of turkeys walking by. I would be really lost if I wasn't in this environment. I just feel like when I'm in the middle of nowhere, quote unquote, when I'm in the woods, I feel like I'm in the middle of life. Like everything's alive around me. I feel totally relaxed. I feel at home. And when I go into a city where there's a lot of concrete and cement and, brick buildings and so on, then I feel like I'm cut off from life. So if I need inspiration, I just walk out the door, I walk out the kitchen door, or I walk out the front door, and that's all I need.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Another question for you. What's your favorite subject to write about and why?
Well,
pick one.
I've been writing. I was not trained as a writer, and I was not an English major, and I really don't know what I'm doing, but I've been doing it.
I think that covers most of us.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened, but I've been doing it since the mid-1980s, and all of my books, one way or another, have to do with Celtic spirituality. So I've written a lot of herbals now. I think 4 or 5 herbals. They all are about either Scottish traditional herbalism, Irish tree lore and herbalism, you know, Celtic magical uses of plants. I mean, I always seem to go back to that.
Yeah. I think that probably the same with Druids as it is with witches. There's always one sort of area of your pathway that you tend to favour more than the others.
Yeah, well, that's kind of where my heart is. You know, it's hard to write something if your heart isn't in it. You know? Because I spend usually around 2 years working on a book.
Right.
A Legacy of Druids was different because I started it, like I said, in 1996. And then I held on to it for a long time because I don't know why. I just put it aside, and I was thinking, gosh, who would be interested in, you know, there's so few Druids in the world, and, you know, and then finally one day it just, when I think it was after Isaac died, I said, wow, you know, some of these people are disappearing. I better get it out there. And
fantastic that you managed to catch them.
yeah, I hope more people do this, because we're not all going to be here forever, you know.
I think the title Legacy is perfect, isn't it? That sums it up brilliantly.
Yeah, because these are the founders of the various orders. They're mostly founders, or they were the leaders and the founders. Yeah. And so they were very influential. So whoever is being a Druid today, whether they know it or not, they owe a lot to these people, you know.
Excellent. Is that your favorite book, or do you have another book that you are perhaps most proud of, or your most favorite one? Or is it always the new one that you're working on? Is always
exactly. My current favorite one hasn't been published yet. I'm working on a children's book. It's European pagan festivals, with recipes and projects, and
fantastic. There's not many, is there? We are lacking, I think, in books that are aimed at children with a view to paganism.
Right. Well, that's the most interesting thing to me right now. Is that's what I'm involved in right now. So
I think that's always the way, isn't it? Yeah. So that's what you're currently working on as well, then, which is going to be my next question.
Well, I'm also working on the sacred herbs of Yule. Oh, okay. I have, sorry, crass commercial announcement. I did the sacred herbs of Samhain, and then I followed that with the sacred herbs of spring.
Right.
And again, these are very, very magical, but they also have medicinal uses, and lots of cautions and preparation methods and magic, you know. So now I'm doing the sacred herbs of Yule, and that's what I'm going to be working on this winter.
Brilliant. That's my favorite time of the year, Yule. So do you have any practices, spiritual practices, that you work with every day or on a regular basis?
Well, I have an altar. Well, several actually. But,
you can never have just one.
I can't have too many, right? So, but I have a big one in the living room. I have another one in my bedroom. But usually I have a candle going at night, and I have a statue of the goddess Bridget, and it's a wooden carved statue. It's beautiful. And I usually say a little prayer in Gaelic to her.
Right.
When I light the candle. So that's one thing I do. Another thing I do is every night, no matter what the weather is, I go outside before I go to sleep. I go outside and I just commune with the moon and the stars, the bats, you know, whatever is out there. I have to do that. I don't know why. I just have to do that. And then I mentioned Tribe of the Oak. I'm currently Archdruid of Tribe of the Oak. One of the nice things about Tribe of the Oak is we have a fire temple, and it's dedicated to Bridget, and we have 19 shifts that people sign up for a different shift. Each shift is named after a tree, willow, oak, holly, whatever. The 19th shift belongs to Bridget herself. But what you do is when it's your turn on your shift, you light a candle at dusk and you keep it going all night and all the next day. And it just so happens that today I'm on the willow shift and my candle is still burning. And I usually put them in the entranceway so that if Bridget comes by, she can see it. And it never goes out. That's the amazing thing. I put it out, you know, in the winter. I mean, all year, I always put out my candle and it never goes out. It's always lit. And I just leave it burning until it naturally dies. You know, I don't blow it out. But it just happens that that candle is burning right now.
Perfect. I'm going to say a quick hello to Claire, who has joined us, and to Diane. And Diane has a question for us. Diane says, to what degree do you feel and I'm going to say this wrong, Ogham, however you say, is integral to Druidry, or is this only Gaelic Druidry?
Okay, so Ogham is the Old Irish pronunciation. Ogham is modern Irish. So,
so I've heard both, and I wasn't sure which.
Well, for modern Druids, because that's what we are, we're modern Druids. I would say pretty much all modern Druids need to know Ogham. And I happen to have a book. I know I'm incorrigible, but it's called A Druid's Herbal of Sacred Tree Medicine, which is a book about Ogham. And it goes into all the trees of the Ogham alphabet. And it goes into the spiritual aspects, the stories, the word Oghams, that is the old poetic meanings that were associated, the medicinal properties of each of the trees. There's a section on Druid Magic using Ogham. But I think pretty much these days, all Druids use Ogham.
Yeah.
Or need to know about Ogham. Yeah. But I will say the Ogham calendar that has become very popular, it is extremely popular. It is very modern. It has nothing to do with the ancient Celts.
No.
Okay. The alphabet is real.
Yes.
We know because we have Ogham stones. The best collection of Ogham stones, if you want to see it, is at the University of Cork in Ireland. And if you're serious about Ogham, you should definitely go there. They have about 300 Ogham stones all in one place. And you can read them and, you know, hang out with them. But yeah, Ogham it's an ancient thing, and it's also very much a modern Druid thing. But the calendar is completely modern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does get used a lot, doesn't it? It does get used a lot.
Well, it was invented by an English poet named Robert Graves.
Yeah. He's responsible for a few things, isn't he?
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, Diane has a further question on that.
Okay.
Are the Ogham in, I'm rubbish at pronouncing it, are the Ogham in North America different? It's the same, isn't it, wherever you are in the world? The Ogham is a standard alphabet, as I understand it.
I'm not sure what she means by that question, because there are people, and I think it's totally bogus, but what they do is whenever they find stones in North America that have lines on them, they immediately say, oh, that's Ogham.
All right.
And it's not. You know, if you've ever looked at an actual Ogham stone, they don't look anything like that. You know,
Right.
so I urge people who live in North America to, you can Google Ogham
Yeah.
and look at pictures of Ogham stones, and you will find that the letters are carved on the edge of the stone. And you know, they're very even. It's not slashes, you know. It's, I mean, it's an alphabet. Okay, so I'm not sure if that's what she means. What was the question again?
I would think so. It was just if it's different, but there is only one set of the alphabet, isn't there?
Yeah,
Variations.
Yeah, you find it in Scotland. You find it in primarily in Ireland. Do you have it in England? You must have it in England. I
I'm sure
can't
we
remember. But yeah, but that's the Ogham alphabet, and we all use the Ogham alphabet, or we you should at least know the Ogham alphabet. You should know something about it if you're going to call yourself a druid. Yeah.
A question from me. How do you use it? Do you use it for divination? Do you use it in ritual, or how would you use the Ogham?
Well, that's interesting. I don't. Well, you can cast. They're called fids, or fid just means wood. Ogham sticks. You can use them for divination. I have done that. It's not something I do regularly. It's more because I know the trees in my mind. If I am walking in the forest and a particular tree stands out to me, and sometimes I have a meditation that I teach people that I do. I close down my eyes, so my eyes are just open a little slit, and I'm walking, and then a tree will suddenly make. I'll feel the energy of a particular tree. Then I open my eyes and I see what kind of tree it is.
Right.
And that's kind of, it's like full body dowsing or something.
Right. Okay.
Or, you know, if I'm feeling a particular heart connection with a certain tree, you know, because I know the Ogham and I know the properties of the trees.
Right.
It's kind of like I can get a message like, oh, you know, it's a willow. Okay, I need to calm down. I need to be more gentle, you know, or oh, it's an ash. Okay, I need to be a warrior. You know, I need to be.
It must give you a better connection to the energy of the tree, I would think.
Definitely. The more you know about the trees, and trees are very basic for druids. I have a saying, every tree is a church for a druid.
Definitely.
And any tree, it can be any tree, but if it's a tree of the Ogham alphabet, so much the better. But there's a lot of meaning to that, because the trees, the roots go down to the underworld, and that's where the she and the ancestors are. The trunk is in the middle world, where the nature spirits and the people are, and also the fairies and so on. And then the branches are in the sky world, which is where the deities are.
Yeah.
So if any tree, even a little tiny tree, if you just hang out with a tree, you can span the worlds, all three worlds. And you can travel shamanically. You can enter the tree. You can go into trance, or even just meditate and enter the tree with your consciousness and go down through the roots to the she realm of the fairy realm and the ancestors. Or you can travel up to the branches and then out to the sky realm. Or I like to go to Ireland sometimes. I'll go to an oak and then I'll go up, and then I'll go out of the branches and I'll fly. Some people swim across the ocean. That's too much trouble for me.
That's quite a lot of effort, isn't it?
Yeah, I fly, you know, and then I usually land on a beach. Like I might land on Dingle Beach or something.
Perfect way to travel, really.
Yeah, I mean, we're all stuck at home. Why be stuck at home?
Exactly. We've got, Eva. Eva says, fantastic book, a big reference for me. I think that was the tree one that she's talking about.
Thank you.
So, brilliant. Excellent. If anyone's got any questions, we've got about 5 minutes left. So if anybody's got any questions, please do pop them in the comments and we will do our best to answer them. You mentioned you have several authors, but do you have a particular place, if you could travel anywhere via your tree, where would you choose to go? What's your most spiritual, sacred place?
Well,
do you want a list?
Yeah, I thought of Stonehenge, but that's so, doesn't everybody, No, I've done ceremony inside of Stonehenge 4 times now, full Druid ceremony.
Yeah.
Usually going in before it opens or after it closes. Yeah. And so I recommend that, but you have to book ahead.
It's a special place, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to book ahead with English Heritage.
Yeah.
But now you couldn't, I don't think, right? It's closed now, probably.
At the moment it is, yes.
Yeah. But also Eire, the whole island of Ireland is sacred to me.
Right.
And the 5 directions, north, south, east, west, and center. And the weird thing is, I mean, I've had my genealogy done, my DNA, all that. I have no Irish DNA, none. I do have Scottish, I don't have Irish. But I've always had that pull. Even before I went to Ireland, it was already sacred to me. So it's, right. I don't know, it has to be a past life thing.
I was just going to say that, yeah, you must have connections somewhere going way back.
And I've written novels about that. Well, I have a trilogy, Priestess of the Forest, the Druid Isle, and Priestess of the Fire Temple, which are, I will say, channeled. That's what people have told me. I mean, I would just sit here at the computer and then all these things would appear and I would just write them down. But yeah, the whole island, Eire, the whole island, I don't see it as north and south. It's the whole thing. It's yeah.
Perfect. Claire has asked a question. What was the name of the poet that you mentioned?
Who? Robert Graves?
That it was, you said AE, didn't you? And then
AE, yeah. And who else did I mention?
My brain's gone empty.
Yeats. I mentioned Yeats.
Yes, Claire, you'll have to watch the replay.
Which poet does she? What context?
Watch the replay, Claire.
Yeah.
Yes, she said yes. AE, Robert Graves. Yeah, Robert Graves. She was
okay. Robert Graves. All right, Robert Graves. Okay, now this all gets back to there are many different kinds of druids. Robert Graves invented, as I said, the Ogham calendar, the tree calendar. That's his invention, not ancient. Okay, so there are druids. We call them romantic revival druids, who base their druidry or druidism on Iolo Morgannwg, who was a Welsh forger who made things up. But what do we do in modern times? We make things up.
Yeah.
So he made things up. But the problem was that he made things up and he said they were ancient. That's the problem. So we don't know what of his stuff is the real Celtic Druidic lore and what is his own made up stuff. So in my books, I'm always very careful. When I'm writing a novel, I'm writing a novel. But in my other books, I'm always careful to say, this is where I got this, and I heavily footnote everything. Where was I going with it? Oh, yeah, Robert Graves. So Robert Graves wrote a book called The White Goddess, which is mostly made up. Okay. And there are a lot of English druids and English witches, it's mostly English, right, who take that book as gospel, the White Goddess. Who is the White Goddess? The moon or Caradwen or something. But you need to know that it was poetic inspiration.
Yeah.
It wasn't the real stuff. So what I usually tell people is learn the real stuff first, meaning learn the traditional Celtic stuff like the Carmina Gadelica, really important book. That's for the Scottish stuff, or the Silver Bough books. Read the old stuff. Read the poetry of Amergin, Amergin Whiteknee, who was an old druid, Irish druid. We have his poetry.
That's a fantastic name, isn't it?
Well, we have his poetry from 2,000 years ago. We still have it. Read the old stuff. Read the real stuff. And when you really know the real stuff, then go read the White Goddess and understand that it is a poetic statement by a modern English poet.
I can also recommend, if you read The White Goddess, to read one of published my Moon books, actually, Stalking the Goddess, where he takes the White Goddess and breaks it down, basically.
Okay.
Dissects it is probably the best way to put it, but it makes for interesting reading. So I think that's about it. If no one else has any other questions, it has been a fantastic chat with you, Ellen. Your website, can you tell everybody your website where they can find information about you?
Oh, yes. It's EllenEvertHopman.com. Just my name, EllenEvertHopman.com. And then also Tribe of the Oak.
You can find links to Ellen via the Moon Books website as well.
Yeah, or visit tribeoftheoak.com if you're interested in Druid studies. We'd love to have you.
Fantastic. I'm sold. Absolutely brilliant. And thank you to everyone that has joined us this evening. We've had some interesting questions. It has been lovely to chat with you, Ellen. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you to everyone that's joined us. If you've caught us part the way through, give us a few seconds and then the video will appear on the Moonbooks Facebook page, and you can watch the replay and catch all of the beginning of it. Watch every Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK time for the next few weeks. There are different authors each week. Lots of thank yous coming up here. Ellen, Claire and Diane and Andrea, thank you, and sending best wishes right back at you.
Thank you and blessings. Stay safe. Be well.